Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Board Games Unlocked, and Brad and I are doing our top 10 deck building games. This was a list that we have done, I think 5 years ago. I think I said 2018, where we merged deck builders and bag builders, mainly so we could actually include, at least for me at the time, so I could make a list of 10 notable games. But now, 5 years later, I have since changed my stance on deck building, and I appreciate them a lot more. So this is purely deck building games. I think your favorite mechanism, right?
One of them. I mean, it used to be. It used to be. I've kind of changed a little bit since then to worker placement. And
that's fair.
But yeah, it's still one of my best favorites.
Yeah. So if you're not familiar with deck building, it's not going to include games like Magic the Gathering. Those are deck constructing games where you build the deck ahead of time and you bring that into the game. Deck builders are generally, everyone starts with the same typical 10 cards, and you build your deck as the game goes on to build an engine of some sort. That's the major difference.
Right.
So that's what we'll be talking about here. And I'm going to cheat very slightly. It's not even on our PowerPoint here, but I do have an honorable mention of a deck builder I just played yesterday. I'm not even going to go into kind of how it plays or anything, but it's Moonrakers. So Moonrakers would actually probably have made this list, but I literally just played it yesterday. And I'm like, well, that probably would be on here. But anyway, that's just how it goes whenever you're making these lists. Yeah. So let's go to games that actually have made it. And we'll start with my honorable mention, which, I mean, we're going to have.
I think we're going to have crossovers.
We're going to have a lot, I think. I think we'll have like.
Say 1, 2, 3, 4.
I'm gonna say 7.
Four for sure. Maybe 5.
I'm gonna say 7 total crossovers.
All right.
So that's okay. That's okay. That just means we like good games. So my honorable mention is kind of a split because they're relatively the same game. And that is boom. Yes. Hero Realms and Star Realms. I imagine this will most likely be way higher on your list. But I combined both of these because it's essentially the same game, just with sci-fi or fantasy. If you're not familiar, Star Realms came out. Oh God, when did it come out?
Star Realms was probably like a 2015.
Close, 2014.
Okay.
So it came out 9 years ago. Wow, almost 10. That's almost 10 years old, and it has spawned many expansions, even copying what Hero Realms does, because Hero Realms came and it was basically, it had these hero packs where instead of having the same 10 cards, you actually started with different cards, and you can even start with the unique powers when you're facing off against the other person. Both of them at their core are 1v1 games where you're just trying to lower the other person's life points. And they're both incredibly solid. I lean more towards Hero Realms because I like fantasy over sci-fi, but they both play and they have so much content to them that you're going to be able to do many different engines. And my favorite thing about deck building games are where you go a different strategy than your opponent, and if you both build your decks well, each strategy is viable.
Right.
So pick your poison. If you love sci-fi, get Star Realms. I have everything for it, or I will, because I think they did Star Realms. They just did another expansion for it too, Rise of the Empire, I think. And then Hero Realms also just did another Kickstarter called Dungeons, and added more. I mean, I think at this point they did, like, Hero Realms kind of leans more into the exploration sense because they actually have those story journeys,
campaign type things,
little small campaigns. So they do at this point differentiate a little bit more. But if you're taking base game to base game, it's the same. It's the same. So, yeah, that's my honorable mention.
Well, just a little peek behind the old curtain here. This one is not on my list. This actually was my 12.
Really?
It was actually my 12.
Oh, wow.
It was right. Hero Realms. I didn't consider Star Realms. So it was just right there. But
interesting.
Yeah,
wow. Okay.
It's a good one for sure.
Well, good. I didn't want us to just basically be rehashing the same games for 2 hours.
All right. My number 11 is a game that I think might be a crossover too with you. I'm not sure because I think you sold all your stuff for this. This is one that I only own the base game and like one or two of the expansions. There's so much out for it that I still need to get. But there's been several iterations of this game over the years, and that is Thunderstone Quest.
I did sell all my stuff for this.
Yeah, I thought you had. This one was always, I'd played the original Thunderstone from the very first version of it, the one that came out shortly after Dominion, and then so that kind of killed Dominion for me, just because this had a little more theme to it and stuff. And then they had the Thunderstone Advanced system, which was the kind of an updated version with a little bit more stuff to it. And then they decided, hey, we're going to do a third iteration. We're going to call it Quest, and we're actually going to add a lot more theme and story and type stuff into it a little bit. There's so much crap for this damn game. I mean, because it's virtually the same game mechanically, like the base part of it. But I like how you can choose your race. You start with those cards. You can upgrade those cards and upgrade characters and stuff, and just do all the cool stuff. And then it even throws the little mini in there that you can use for the stupid board, and stuff like that. But the art,
they just did a Kickstarter for this too. Again,
they did, and I didn't do any more of it because I have so much. I like just the base game, and I have the Barricades expansion lets you play it solo. And that's the way I play it the mostly. But they've kept building upon this system over the years, and I think this is about as good as it's going to get. I wish there was a way to play it like cooperatively without the having to do the barricade. I mean, that would probably put this a lot higher for me because of the different expansion stories and all that stuff that they have. But because it's kind of a the teardown and stuff takes a while with this one.
It does.
And that's kind of one of the reasons it's down this far as well. It's still I love. I mean, it's your pure deck building again. It's got that whole mechanic, but it's just a good one, and I maybe one day they'll come up with a purely cooperative thing or something. I doubt it.
Yeah, because the reason I got rid of it, because I played it and my plan was to actually do the different quests for the channel. I'm like, oh, that could be fun. And then whenever I played like 2 of them in a row, I was like, this is the same game. So it just kind of fell a little flat for me. And I'm like, for how much stuff is in here, I'm not like enticed to set it up.
It doesn't pay off as much like an Aeon's End. Aeon's End has a little bit of a setup, but it pays off because it's got more edgier stuff and everything. But yeah, anyway, that's my honorable mention, Thunderstone Quest.
All right, now to the actual list. And what's really funny is whenever I was trying to make this list, I was thinking, like, I was kind of going through my collection and I was going through the deck building thing on Board Game Geek, and I'm like, man, maybe I don't actually own as much as I thought. And then I got like way into like the page 9 and 10s, and I'm like, oh, here they all are, apparently, because no one plays this one. But the people who do play this really like it, and I actually get a lot of comments on this video for some reason. I think maybe because most people haven't covered it, and that is the Dark Souls card game. This one was one that was by Steamforged Games, as you can clearly see their logo. They released this after their board game flopped so hard because it was horrendous. And I don't remember what even prompted me to get this one, but I was like, sure. Like, I think I'm just looking for videos to do on the channel. And I'm like, wait a minute, is this good? Is this a cleaner version of the board game, but still feels more like Dark Souls? And the answer is yes. So if you like this IP, yeah, if you like this IP, then uh and you're wondering which one to get this one because it's cheaper. I mean, but it's still kind of expensive.
Card game, it is, but
Yeah,
yeah.
for the content that you get, it is kind of pricier than I'd like, but it's super solid. Like you have your deck that's based around the class that you pick, and as you get souls, you spend those on various types of cards, whether it's going to be like the cards up at the top right or kind of like your standard market of either faith, dex, strength, or I don't remember the fourth one. But they're essentially icons that you need to use weapons in your deck more efficiently. So you're going to be grabbing those and you're going to be upgrading those because your deck can only hold a certain amount of cards. And each time you rest out a bonfire, that number increases as you find items and defeat enemies and defeat bosses that give you items. And you want to be like, ooh, okay, I'm going to put this into my deck. But it's very intriguing with that sense because you have to balance the cards that let you use your weapons, but also how many weapons and how much armor and how much shields you're going to want to actually include in your deck when you fight against these enemies. And your deck is essentially your life as well. So anytime you're taking damage, like you're discarding cards from the top of your deck. So this game is very difficult. I actually prefer it solo. Although when you're playing solo, you're the only one that's going to take damage. No matter, like, there are some enemies that just attack in like a row, but if there's no one there, then it's like, okay, well then it's just going to go down to you. So you have to take that into consideration. But
Have
it
you
still
ever? Oh,
feels. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, have you ever played it like two-handed solo?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, that would help. That helps with that a little bit
Okay.
with the focus.
Yeah, I have played the multiplayer many times, and it does because the positioning on the board actually matters. Where how enemies are attacking, and you can position in a way that it's like, okay, well, I have like 4 health, so and no defense, so let's have you be the target. But the bosses, which the Souls games are mainly known for, they have a lot of them if you get the expansions, and they actually feel like the bosses. They even have like a second phase where they go into like their heat up mode. So basically everything good that the board game does is incorporated here, but now it's a deck builder. And a pretty unique one in that because normal deck builders don't actually give you a deck limit. So I highly recommend this one. And if you can get the expansions, I think they're out of print or they're hard to get. But
Yeah, and I
yeah,
think if you just get like it's like $48 to get a card game.
the card
It's
game just
yeah, and then the expansions are like 39 or something like that.
yeah.
It's pricey, and the art's awesome. I like the dark
Hmm.
dark look. It kind of puts you in the
Yeah.
scene for sure.
Yeah, they did a really good job with this one. So I mean, I'm pretty sure they're done supporting it,
Yeah.
but the content that they have for it is enough. So that's my number 10, Dark Souls.
Well, and I've never even played the video game and like the card game, so that's something else too. You don't have to know about the video game to like this game.
That is true.
Sure.
Yeah. Which shows how good it is
Right,
because
right.
a lot of games that do have an IP, it's like, well, I really love the world, but the game's shit. It's like, cool.
It's kind of like the Resident Evil board games.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love the world, but the game is kind of
Yeah, I'm trying to think of other IPs that like the games are actually bad, but people like love the world, so they give it a pass. But I can't think of anything off the top
What
of my head.
about your those other ones from this company that you
Monster Hunter.
there's the other one
Not
that's the
Monster Hunter.
PlayStation Horizon Zero.
Horizon Zero Dawn. I don't see anyone talk about that game.
Yeah.
Love the world. That game is super fun. The board game is so boring. Monster Hunter, I think based off the gameplay videos I've seen, I haven't actually played it, looks to be their closest to like, wow, you actually made a good game here, and you made and the IP is really good. But I think that's because Monster Hunter itself is the boss fights,
Right.
and that's all you do. And the best thing about the Dark Souls board game was the boss fights. So maybe that's why it's better. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. Well, my number 10 is kind of an oldie as well. It's been on a few of my lists over the years. It's a 2014 game. I didn't realize it was quite that old, but and this is going off of what you just did with Dark. This is a card game version of a board game, a big board game. And that is A Touch of Evil Dark Gothic. This one is, I mean, if you like Flying Frog and you've got the stupid photography art cards, which are just, I'm gonna use the word charming.
They're
unique.
unique.
Yeah, they're silly, but it's kind of neat when you play the game. It just kind of makes sense when you're playing the game. But what's cool about this?
I was gonna say real quick, I know a lot of people like not really shit on them. I don't really see anyone making fun of them for that, because I think they did it in such a way that it doesn't feel cringe. It's like this is like if I was going to a medieval or dark dark fantasy Ren fair.
Right.
It's like their costumes don't look cheap. At least I don't think so. It's like, so they touched on it in a perfect way that it's like, this fits the game you made. So I commend them for that.
Yeah. And what most deck building games, pure deck building games, you have like two currencies a lot of times. There's an attack currency and there's a buy currency. This one, the reason that this one stands out to me is because it actually runs with three currencies. So when you're playing the game, they have red, blue, and green. Those are your currencies. Combat, cunning, and spirit. So some cards may cost, well, like if you look at these on the row right here, this one costs a combat and a spirit to purchase it, so it's like, so you have to combine, you have to build your deck in a good way that has multiple aspects. And up here on this top row, there's actual like those cards where you can just pay to get some of that resource, The other thing that I like about this game, it's a mechanic that I don't really see happen a whole lot, is there's a card called a Hungry Dead card. It's one of those that always just sits out here. And if you have to pay one of each resource to defeat it. But when you do that, you can either clear a card off of the row in the center, or remove a card from your deck.
Oh, okay.
And it just stays there. So like if you want to cull your deck that way, you don't have to worry about card culling. You can like out of your deck buying cards that cull, it's like, if you want to start getting your deck down, you just start beating up some Hungry Dead to kind of get your deck streamlined, so you don't have to go with that chance of finding that card.
I can think of one game, Clank has like a goblin that just kind of stays out, but I don't even think it really does anything. It doesn't do anything like that anyway.
Right.
Like a consistent way to cull your deck, that's huge.
And the other cool thing is like you start with a monster hunter, and they're all different. So they all have different starting cards. Some of them have more spirit, some of them have more combat, and then ultimately you're trying to defeat the monster that's here, and they have different abilities, and you're trying to power up to beat. There's different iterations of it as you go, so you're trying to power up and beat that. It just combines stuff from a few different kind of deck builders, and it's unique enough that it's really cool. And if you like this game, there's the only big expansion for it's called Colonial Horror. And that one, if you like this game, that one adds a ton to it, like a ton more content and everything. It's almost like if you like this game, that's a must get.
Is this cooperative?
I
can't remember if the board game was cooperative. It was, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of semi.
Okay.
You can play this that way. It's like you can play the solo. I mean, it says 2 to 6 on the box. You can play it solo. It's kind of a semi-cooperative one. You're trying to go through and, it's kind of that whole legendary deck builder thing a little bit, but a little more because whoever kills the bad monster is kind of
The winner.
in a way and
Okay.
stuff. But no, I really enjoy this one. This was one that I just kind of picked up on a whim one time, and it is just a really solid deck builder with those triple currencies, and that's what makes it more strategic, I think.
Yeah. Cool. When are they doing the Shadows of Brimstone deck builder?
My God, I don't know. I'm telling you, man, that I've been playing a lot of that new stuff.
You have, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
pretty damn badass. So
Yeah, I'm like, good. I was actually happy when you were like, I'm actually playing it. I'm like, good. Instead of just putting minis together and watching it be sad over in the corner.
we've played several missions so far.
Nice.
So anyway, yep, that is my number 10, A Touch of Evil, Dark Gothic.
Awesome. My number 9 is a little bit of a weird one because I don't actually own it anymore, but I can foresee myself picking this back up if they keep supporting it, which this company kind of tends to do, which is good. I'll probably pick it back up or just find someone selling a copy. And it is a deck builder. Like I'm not doing this like weird. Ooh, it's actually not. But it has a very unique twist. So that's why it's also not higher on the list because it's what I would call shared deck building. And so my number 9 is The Edge of Darkness. John DeClare's card crafting game that first started with Mystic Vale. And Mystic Vale is not on this list just because I find some of his other card crafting games better, this one and Dead Reckoning. But Edge of Darkness is extremely fascinating. One, because like we were talking about Thunderstone Quest and kind of how it has a shit ton of cards. This does as well. And each card is tied to a location. So each location, that's kind of like your market, depending on which scenario you pick or randomly set it up. You're going to have 10 different locations. I forgot this board. Dude, I forgot how much of a beast it is. I actually played this solo before I decided to sell it. And I was like, this is a beast. The solo is very, very good. But anyway, it was just a lot. So those locations, like the castles and stuff, by the way, the artwork is fantastic. Very high fantasy, Lord of the Rings, like some of the cities, like the main city, you think Gondor or something. But each location has a very specific card assigned to it, and you have workers. So you send workers to go get those cards and you craft them. But whenever you discard cards or defeat monsters off the cube tower, those go into like your guild. So you build a deck around these cards after card crafting them. But when you spend them, they go into like a shared discard pile. And those eventually come through the market. And over time, you can actually slot your guild sigil into these sleeves, which means they're yours. Now, your opponents can actually use your cards, but for each like section they do out of the 3, they have to pay you to use it. So whenever you're building your deck and crafting your cards, you're kind of, if you have a really, really good card, your opponent can use it, but you might get something out of it. The cool thing is after they do use a card of yours, it will go into your deck. So you are guaranteed to use your card, just maybe not whenever you want to. I just find the amount of content that this game has, the uniqueness of every single card and what it does, on top of the fact that these locations have some of them have special abilities as well. Like the City Watch actually has a special ability on it, whereas the Forge does not. And those are tied directly to the cards that you get into your deck. So it's a slight deck builder, slight card crafter, but I have yet to ever find any type of deck builder that's like, ooh, what I'm building is also potentially going to be used by my opponents. So it's very involved. It's a very involved game. But out of all of John DeClare's works, I mean, I like Dead Reckoning more because I still have it, but This one I think I will just probably try and pick up because I just like it was just never getting played because
Right.
it is kind of a beast to teach and set up. And with deck builders, you want efficiency. That's like the whole idea of a deck builder. So you don't want to have to slog to set up a game and then be like, well, sorry, this took an hour to set up and 45 minutes to play. Not that this game does that. This game is pretty involved and lengthy, so a lot going on.
Yep.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah, I haven't played this one, so
It's my number 9. I wouldn't say if anyone's like, ooh, I like Mystic Vale, will I like this? They're not the same game. Mystic Vale probably, if someone were to argue, deserves to be on this list over this one because Mystic Vale is more of a deck builder. Has like the push your luck element to it. I just find it kind of flat a little bit.
right.
This one had a lot more that was stimulating the entire time. And I wanted to put it on here because of the uniqueness of ooh, my cards are going in the market that someone can grab. I
Right.
like that. So
All
that's
right.
my number 9, Edge of Darkness.
Okay, my number 9 is the oldest game on my list.
Okay.
Came out in 2011, and it is not a pure deck builder like the last two I've said. This one, it's a big mechanic of it, but it's not the main aspect of it. And it's a game that I've always loved. It's out of print.
I kind of had a hard time because I wasn't sure if I wanted to try and find pure deck builders or if deck building was an element of the game. Like this could be argued it's worker placement.
Right. I think if it's
Yeah,
a
but
prominent part, like it
okay.
doesn't have to be the main part. That's kind of the way I went with it.
Yep.
But anyway, my number 9 is Blood Bowl Team Manager.
Okay.
And this one, the deck building comes when you're gaining your players throughout the season, and you can only have so many players on your team, so you have to get rid of cards in your deck and put those in, but then you shuffle it up, and it's still a deck builder because you're building up your team. That's kind of the deal, but you're trying to create your best team before you get to the actual Blood Bowl at the end, and everything. So this one is, I'm not a huge Warhammer guy, but this was a cool football style game, with all the stuff and everything. It has several teams, and you just fans. You're fighting for fans, which are the victory points. Whoever has the most fans at the end of the game is the winner, even if you don't win the Blood Bowl. It's so there's factions that cheat. There's factions that are better at passing the ball or doing this and that, and you roll dice to tackle. It plays a lot like. I mean, have you ever played the actual Blood Bowl miniatures game? Like
Nope.
the physical?
I remember years ago, Chad, like our friend Chad, would constantly give updates on how he was just getting fucked over
that was me
every
that
game
was
he
fucking
played.
that was me that was fucking him over.
Oh,
because I kept sending
Okay.
pictures of like my guys
Okay.
standing in the end zone and everything. Yeah. Because it plays. I mean, you set that up like a football. You set up your deal. You do everything just like a football game. You pass the ball, kick the ball, roll dice to tackle. This does a really good job of simulating it in a lot lesser footprint and everything. This one's just you're battling for those middle deals. It has like that smash up feel a little bit, where you're trying to win those locations in the center, but there's also that ball element, so that ball will transfer back and forth, and that counts as points. So whoever has the most power at the end wins that highlight. And
like smash up, sorcerer and For Glory kind of has that same tug of war aspect.
And this one would have been prior to all of those. So
that's true.
So
yeah, you're right.
But yeah, I just like it. I mean, the art's cool if you like with the Warhammer fantasy art, and the cards are creative, and there's tons of randomness and you can get fucked by certain things, but it's still just a fun game just to kind of go out and screw around with. I would say you could play this with more than 2 people, but I would just say 2 is about the best.
Okay, I was going to ask because I was like, I couldn't remember if this was purely a 2-player game, but then I saw the 2 to 4. I'm like, oh, is this supposed to be played with more?
Well, you get more highlights in the center, but then you can have multiple. Like, you can only have 2 per highlight, right? So if I get on this one and both sides are taken, nobody else can come in on that highlight. So you could get kind
Okay,
of pushed out, which is
I
kind of
see.
shitty sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I even had a custom play mat made for this that looks like a football field and has all the deals out
Hmm.
on the football field stuff. It's just a neat little
Yeah.
game. And
Every
like I
time we
said,
every time we talk about this one, it's like we need to do this for the channel because we did do it for the channel, but um we must have played it completely wrong because
yes,
I
I
don't
don't
think I've
know how, but we can try
I
it
removed the
sometime.
video because which I rarely do unless I'm redoing a review after giving a game another shot, or if there were enough rules mistakes that it's a completely botched video. Based off the guy or the guys who were commenting, there were quite a few, and I'm like, okay, all right. I mean, he still has the game, I think, so we'll redo it at some point.
Yeah. So
Um, yeah, there's not like so. Portal did 11, which was like the franchise thing that for like Madden,
mhm.
it's like where you ran a soccer team. Um, it's like there's just not good sports games out there. Like I know people like baseball highlights and this one, but it's like they still don't feel like I'm playing baseball or they don't feel like I'm playing football. It's like you would think that that would be there. Like 11's really good as a soccer simulator if you're managing the team, but it's like nothing is about actually playing the sport.
Yeah, and that's
You would
why
think with
this one's
people
the
who are in the
closest.
hobby, it's like, well, they're not
Like,
typically going to go out and actually play the sport.
yeah,
So,
yeah, this one's the closest to me for that, just because you do get the theme when you play that card and you're tackling
yeah.
somebody or stealing the ball back or you're
I guess
cheating,
that other, yeah,
randomness and stuff. It's kind of, I mean, I'm not saying it's perfect by any means, but it
yeah.
gives me the best feeling of
I
that.
guess that, yeah, the miniatures one you were talking about, the actual Blood Bowl
Yeah.
has passing and stuff. But yeah, you would think that there would be one out there. Like imagine if there was actually like a NFL board game. Obviously they couldn't use the actual players, but there's a lot of people who get around that by being very cheeky with
Hmm.
certain teams. And imagine like because I feel like it would be just super cool if you just had 32 teams that were like the Eagles or whatever, but they all played differently. And then whenever you're going up, you can actually franchise the team and actually try and design and draft players, kind of like what this one does, but in a more asymmetric way of playing the game. Because if you really break down football, besides it being a physical sport, it's like there's a lot of being like, okay, we're gonna have this person pair up against this person, we're gonna have this defense run against this offense. It's there. It's there. I feel like there's someone can make it.
Yep. All right. Well,
Anyway,
that's
that
my
was a
number
side tangent.
9, Blood Bowl Team Manager.
All righty. Okay. So my number 8 is a game that actually kind of surprised me overall that it made the list, which makes it seem like, oh well, why is it even a number 8? But as I kept thinking more and more on it, I realized the base game of this is fine. It's okay. But whenever you add in like a lot of the mini expansions that I've played every expansion for this game, it elevates it to a really solid game. So my number 8 is the Endless Winter Paleo Americans game, done by Fantasia. And Fantasia is a publishing studio that I'm kind of keeping an eye out on because they did. Oh, now I'm trying to blank on what they did. They did. Give me a sec. Give me 2 seconds. Brad, calm down. They did. Oh, they're doing Unconscious Mind.
Yeah.
That's it. Sorry, I was thinking of a different studio, so never mind. But Fantasia is doing Unconscious Mind. Anyway, Endless Winter was a game that came out last year. That kind of was a both. It had a lot of different mini games that was kind of surrounding it. Like there was like a little area control board where you were sending like moving workers around to place tents to get bonuses. Yeah, like so there's a lot of little stuff going on. Like the top left is that area control where you're trying to put tents to control certain sections and then overall huts to be able to kind of control all that stuff, so you get benefits for that, like during eclipse phases and so on. You can go hunting and do a set collection element of animals that you're hunting or you're collecting. So if you can kill them for meat, because you basically have two resources. You have meat and you have tools. And uh and you of course need both of those to be able to either use certain cards or get specific items to be able to do various actions. There's a lot of different elements that allow you to get victory points, and it blends really well together. Like the actual what you do on your turn is just very solid. Like the game itself, by like even base game, is just a solid game. Just by itself, I was thinking it needs a little bit more. I felt like it was going to kind of get stale after a while, but they have a lot of little mini expansions. Even in the base game, they have some variants you can play that improve it, and then the expansions add unique tribe powers, or you can rotate out the different cards, because there's those 5 cards in the middle that are the workers you can get, whether they're hunters or they're sages or they're builders or explorers or things like that, that you can get. You can exchange those out depending on just the type of game that you're wanting to play. So what's also cool is a lot of these cards have a eclipse effect, which means that there's an eclipse phase at the end of the round that for each card that has that symbol, you get the benefit. So you have to make a decision on whether you want to use the cards during the round or hold on to them until the eclipse phase to get whatever benefit they are. And that's just determined by the strategy that you want to go for. So I think this game is excellent solo as well. Like the AI works really well, and the way that they just gather stuff and get victory points is done in a seamless way. And even multiplayer also works. So this is just one of those solid games that came out that I feel like a lot of people were praising, but I haven't heard anyone talk about it since.
Yeah, this is one I haven't played yet. I've wanted to try it out. I almost got it because you could have added this to if you got the unconscious mind and the late pledge, you could add the full pledge of this too. And I was just like, I need to play it first. So I just never did the trigger.
Yeah, that's fair. I think you would really like it. I almost did get rid of it though, because I was like, yeah, okay, this is all right. But then I was like, oh, I'll try all the expansions first. They have a cave paintings expansion, which is not really my favorite, but it actually has you dry erase to connecting dots to make a painting to get various bonuses. It's with how much is in this game, how many little things that are surrounding it, how clean the game, runs is, quite impressive. So I enjoy it. I enjoy it a lot, and I've been wanting to show my friends because they played the base game with me, and they were like, "Yeah, it's okay." It's like, "Oh, well, we need to try with expansions because it puts a lot more meat into it."
Right.
So that's my number 8, Endless Winter.
All right. Well, my number 8 is a game that we've played together, and it says it plays 1 to 4 players. If you play this with more than 1, you're a moron. I'll go right out and say that. Just 2 is even weird. But the art is awesome on this game, and with the exception of a couple of the creatures in it, it makes thematic sense. And that is Apex Theropod deck building game.
This was considered. It was on my list, but I was like, well, I don't even own it. So
yeah, this one is one I missed out on the first iteration of it, but it was kind of a hot mess back then. And this Outland Entertainment, which I believe is located around Kansas City area, they picked it up and ran the Kickstarter and did awesome. And then they did something cool because one of our other friends had backed the first stuff and hadn't gotten all this stuff yet, and they actually on this campaign helped fulfill the undelivered stuff from the first one as well to make sure everybody had what they were going to get. But this one is you're going to pick a type of dinosaur, T-Rex, Raptors. There's just tons of them in the box, especially with this edition. And you are, creating the apex predator. You're raising your babies, you're hatching them, raising them, you're competing for territory and different resources and stuff. There's a lot of cards out at one time. You're working through this one deck where you can get these like genetic upgrades to make your dinosaurs more lethal or more hardy. It just depends on which way you want to go with it. And ultimately, you're going to battle a big mean dinosaur at the end. That's kind of the direction it takes. But you also have this event deck that keeps popping up each turn, so there could be different odds and ends happen that could hurt your game state or help you. It just depends on the situation.
Mm-hmm.
The one I was talking about that doesn't really fit, they have the Megalodon shark, which I'm assuming that they had an ocean thing they were going to like another
an expansion
or something, but that's the only like ocean one. So he's like running through the forest seeding.
Yeah, it's like forest
Sharknado.
fire.
Sharknado.
Yeah, forest fire. Your aquatic shark gets hurt. Why? Yeah. I'm in the ocean.
Yeah, and then there's like they also had like the the robotic dinosaurs and like the zombie dinosaurs and stuff like that. I don't really ever mess with those a whole lot. I pretty much when I play this, I pick I like the T-Rex. The Raptors are really cool. But when we played this 2 players, it took forever for one thing, and it was just a weird anticlimactic ending to it because so 1 player is like this is a 1 player game. I mean, all the way, but it's really cool. I like just how
it does the dinosaur theme very, very well, and I like the fact that the dinosaurs that you play as do feel different. In play style.
Right. And I like how you can you're like raising your hatchlings and you kind of make and stuff, and it's just really neat. It's the theme is good in it, and I love the art of the dinosaurs are really cool, but I think the coolest art in the game are like those genetics cards.
Yeah.
And like the deals, those are like really cool, like the DNA and all the like those are really neat.
If you're looking for a Jurassic Park game, get this one. Don't get the Island of Dr. Nibiru or whatever cash grab Jurassic Park game that was. This will scratch that itch. And if you're a solo player, 100%.
Oh yeah,
I agree.
Big time.
I agree. I did look it up. Outland Entertainment is based out of Kansas City.
Yep.
So
yep.
cool.
That was the deal. Yep.
Did they do what that company that picked up Subterra 2? So did they just take this solely to distribute it out, or do they actually
Well, they didn't. They didn't add anything to it. Like this is the stuff that was out. They just kind of packaged it and sent it out. So I wasn't sure.
Okay, I wasn't sure if they could do if they owned licensing and they could go in and actually do an aquatic expansion, or if they can't even do that. If it was just more of a, hey, we're just helping.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Get this game out.
Not real sure.
Because this game could go if you want to use the Megalodon, having a whole Apex, aquatic one. I don't think you'd be able to blend them.
No,
it would have to be its own game, but there are enough. Maybe not though, because I think whenever you compare aquatic Apexes, the Megalodon's winning. It doesn't matter, it's winning. There's a reason why it was the fucking terror of the seas. Maybe that's why they threw it in here, because it's well, this is the only aquatic one that makes sense. It just doesn't make sense for the rest of the game. It was cool otherwise.
Yep. All right, well, that was my number 8. Apex.
Okay. So far, no crossover, but that's okay, because this one I will be very surprised if it is not. My number 7, which I actually honestly thought was going to be way higher on this list, but this is kind of where it fell, because I pretty much do Pub Meeple for every single top 10 list now. And this is how it fell, and I looked through the 10 and I'm like, I feel good about that. My number 7 is actually a part of a campaign, like a very small mini series I'm doing on the channel, because its latest expansion included this. So I'm kind of going through that. It's the second expansion that was released for it, and it's so far very good. And that is Lost Ruins of Arnak. So this one was kind of took the world, but everyone was raving about it because it implemented worker placement and deck building in a very seamless way. And one thing that I'm realizing as I'm going through because it's a 6-game campaign that you play solo. You can play it 2 players. I've tried it. Don't do it. It doesn't feel cooperative enough. Just do the campaign solo. It feels way better. But the thing about this game that I'm realizing that I enjoy so much is it's that cascading effect as the game goes on. It's only 5 rounds, and you might think, I'm not going to be able to do everything that I want to do in this game. But at least for me, I always feel satisfied by the end. It doesn't feel like it lives. It's like it's overstaying its welcome. And the cascading effect is you continue to be able to do more and more on your turn by finding different ways to do actions that extend out your turn without having to use your cards, going out and exploring locations, getting resources, defeating guardians, getting cool artifacts and items that go into your deck. And what's great about this is every item you get goes to the bottom of your deck, so you are guaranteed to draw it. And the artifacts can be a really cool like turn, because when you pay to get them, you actually get to pop off their abilities. But then whenever they cycle through your deck again, you have to use a tablet to actually activate them again. So I think that's a very interesting system. So you only ever shuffle the cards that, like, there's never really a discard pile. There's a play area that whenever you're done, you shuffle all those cards and then put them at the bottom of your deck. So a little mix between kind of a deck builder and kind of like the seeded deck construction that Aeon's End has, just not quite as meticulous.
So am I to assume that Dune Imperium's gonna be higher on your list then?
Dune Imperium wasn't even considered.
Yeah,
I guess they're doing a second edition or something for that game. I was like, I don't care. And it's not that I think, and we always talk about this when these two get brought up. It's not even that I think Dune Imperium is a bad game. I just think I just like Lost Ruins better. I couldn't give two. I don't do cocaine, so I don't like Dune. I didn't do a fat line of coke to understand what the hell's going on. And yeah, this one I feel like just runs better. It always feels like, at least for me, that what I'm doing on my turn is indicative of the strategies that I'm trying to do, versus like, boy, I really hope that one person doesn't go to the one spot I can go to even do anything, which Dune Imperium has a lot of. For me, maybe I just have bad luck in that game. Yeah, you can get a lot of free actions, which feels really good, that you can use with like cards in your hand. Be like, I'm gonna do this free actions to get me the resources I need to do this one big action. And I enjoy the puzzle of the temple track.
Yeah.
So, and it has 2 expansions out now. The first one was amazing by giving individual player powers, and the second one came with 2 new explorers that have really cool powers. Like they're pretty awesome. And the campaign that you can play. But once you're done with the campaign, you can just shuffle all of like the unique cards into the deck and just play it like normal. But the campaign is pretty interesting. So having a good time with that. So yeah, that's my number 7, Lost Ruins of Arnak.
That's a good choice. All right, my number 7 is a game that you hear about being the superior solo game of all time on people's lists all the time. And this would probably be a lot higher on this list if I had played it more. I've kind of just now getting my feet wet in it. I've played it a few times. it's one of those that there's a lot of rules to it, so you have to kind of either stick with it or you're gonna have to relearn it a lot if you take take a few weeks off or whatever. And that is Mage.
Ah,
Especially this specifically the Ultimate Edition. It has all the expansions and stuff in it,
mm-hmm.
all that cool stuff. But yeah, this one is a very like this one. Also, you just need to play solo. like
Yeah.
I mean, this one you can play up to 4 or 5, I think, but that would just be stupid. I think because a 1-player game takes long enough, and there's just so much stuff happening and everything. But this has deck building is prominent in this one.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to have your kind of has like an RPG feel a little bit too in it with you're moving around on a nice little map and you're doing different stuff and you're going through these different scenarios. And you just it's one of those I really want to dig into this more because I know I can see how everybody says it's like the best solo game of all time.
Yeah.
But it has a bit of a learning curve to it.
Yeah.
Like this one, I've had a tougher time learning this game than like doing like Too Many Bones and stuff like that. This one's been kind of tricky to pick up, and I know you've played it before.
It's been so long. I don't even think I considered this one when I was even making my list because I'm kind of like you where I need to play it again because I remember not liking it the first time, but I think that was more of I just don't like deck builders
Right.
At that time. And I feel like what I remember of the deck building was really good. That like your cards are multi-use, and if you use mana that's in the air, you get like the cards powered up.
Right.
When you take wounds, they just go into your deck and they clog up your deck. But other than that, I remember it's scenario based as well, I think.
It's scenario based and it's cool because you can like explore caves,
Yeah.
dungeons, and different stuff like that. It's kind of like playing a RPG, video game or something, but you
Right.
have all this stuff and the cards are cool because you can get these powerful spells and action cards in your deck,
Mm-hmm.
just weapons and all kinds of cool stuff.
Yeah.
I run this pure solo when I play it. I don't. Most games that have solo has the option. I run multi, like 2 characters.
Yeah, okay.
This one I stick with one because
That's what
there's a lot of stuff going on with this one.
yeah, 81% of people say it's best solo.
Yeah,
Um,
I can see it. I just have to learn it better, I think.
yeah. It's a high complexity. Like the weight rating is 4.66 out of 5. That's one of the highest I've seen.
It's hard. Like I mean, we play a lot of games, and
Yeah.
I can generally pick stuff up after a couple plays, but this one, man, I almost have to relearn it again if I don't play it for a week or two.
Right. I wonder if that's mainly because I wonder if it's like, is it a rule book situation or is it just there's just a lot of meticulous little stuff? I remember the enemies have a lot of little icons on them.
Yes, there's a lot to there's icons, there's like a lot of little itty bitty things you have to keep track of.
Right.
Which in a solo that's probably why the solo community, because you can just focus on that. You don't have to worry about what other people are doing. But yeah, I mean this one like in a year could be, towards the top. It just depends on once it finally does a full click for me, and goes.
Yeah.
But the art's cool, I like the card art and stuff like that.
Yeah, it just sucks because I feel like Vlaada Chvátil makes amazing games, but I heard recently that he's kind of done. It's like
So,
I don't know how true that is, but I did hear through I think the Dice Tower kind of said something offhanded that he was just kind of done designing. Because I remember he was like when I first got into the hobby, which was probably around the time I played this, because I remember watching Shut Up and Sit Down rave about it, and I was like, "Ooh, I'll get that." So maybe it was also just way too involved for that time, but I remember Vlada was kind of a designer that you knew was making great games. I mean, hell, I think he designed the Through the Ages,
Yeah.
a very involved civilization game. So
I would
yeah, this
bet
is,
that you
huh?
would probably like this now. I bet.
I feel like I would. Like that's why like I haven't completely turned it off. It's just like the Ultimate Edition is like $100 and I'm not, all my money goes to
I have the
Kickstarter.
base game version. It's in a tackle box, but I have the base game version that you can just have if you want to play it.
I should just try
Yeah.
try it just to even see if it's warranted because I don't know what any of the expansions bring.
It's just more cards, more
Okay.
scenarios, stuff like that.
Yeah. I know this is if you ever watch Gaming Rules, like Paul Grogan, this is his
Mhm.
favorite game.
Yeah.
Like out of everything that he raves about, this is his favorite game. Like I think whenever I was watching his like ranking videos, it wasn't even a consideration. Like like Mage Knight because he was doing Pub Meeple. Mage Knight would get paired against like a great game, and he would be like, "Hmm." He's like, "Now this is interesting," and I'm like, "Oh." And then he's like, "Obviously, Mage Knight wins, but this other game is really good." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, like, who cares?" Uh, yeah, I feel like I would really like this game, so I'll have to give it a shot.
Yep. Sounds good. Well, that's my number 7, Mage Knight.
Okay. My number 6, I feel like you haven't actually played. Uh, I don't think you have played it, and I again was surprised at how high this was, but I have recently played this game, and I'm like, it's such a good, fun deck builder. And they just went on Kickstarter, and I say just, it's probably been like 8 months. Who fucking knows anymore when things happen? But they went on for a third Kickstarter for more stuff and actually a storage solution for their other game that's in the same universe. But this is a wacky, hilarious, and yet very good deck builder, and that is
Oh gosh. That's
Epic
like
Spell Wars.
you win
What?
the
Oh,
award for the longest title.
I know. Epic Spell Wars of the Battle Wizards Annihilageddon, the deck building game. She didn't put the deck building game. How are they gonna know?
Yeah. It
Yeah.
says on the picture.
This is their third one was called Satanic Panic and includes like Satan's taint and all that. And it's every time I see cards that are in this game, hell, even in their regular dueling one, I'm like, really? Like this is literally an asshole.
Yeah.
Um, it's so wild that whenever I saw this, because I think someone asked, like, can you combine this with the original game? No. So the only thing I hate about this game is like the storage solution is trash. Uh, I've any game that typically has like a lot of cards, I do my now uh artist carrying case and find a way to store it that way. But this has an actual really good system. Like it's your standard deck builder. You have your purchasing power, you have your attack power with wands, and then you have a limp wand, which is just a card that goes into your deck that's negative. Uh but they have like creatures, they have spells, they have familiars, they have enchantments, all that can synergize into a really awesome deck builder. And it's a competitive of like you're still trying to kill one another, but it's not like an Epic Spell Wars where if you're out, you're kind of out for the round. You just get defeated, and then you just get negative cards, and then you get bonuses for defeating other players and damaging them. Um, Last time I played this was actually at 3, and it felt really good. I was surprised actually because I think last time I played it at 3 when it first came out, I was like, man, it kind of feels like the third person is getting shafted. But it's no, I mean the my favorite thing about this game besides its art are the actual really cool powers that the card comes with. And this is not for everyone. I mean, you can clearly tell based off just the some of the cards that I've mentioned are not even the worst ones. Uh, but if you don't mind the art and you like this wacky, grotesque humor that's clearly inspired by like Ren and Stimpy and those kinds of cartoons, then or Ugly Americans or things like that, then you'll you'll find a really good deck builder here. it's this high on the list mainly because not that it's like innovative in its deck building in any way, but the fact that all the cards that come out can be insanely powerful, and when you can get purchasing power to get like this really high powered like familiar or trophy that you've been working towards the whole game, and when you draw it, you're just like, oh, this is gonna hurt. It just feels good. The game is extremely solid. There's a ton of content for it, different wizard, and the wizards are actually kind of unique. Not that they have a special power, but they have a familiar that they can get that is unique to them. So that's the only, like, they can put that into their deck that is like a special power, I guess, in and of itself when you draw it. But yeah, it's gonna be insane, especially with like the new stuff, because it just adds so much more to it that because the second one added like this nacho cheese thing. I don't even know what weird like what weird idea. Yeah, the Extreme Nacho Legends, which just added like this trophy, this gold trophy that had plastic nacho chips, and they had this currency of these chips you can use for special powers if you had the trophy. And then the third one is the Satanic Panic one, which just has like special Satan powers, which I'm all about, because I if there's one thing I love, it is Satan. So yeah.
If this would have been a solo or cooperative type thing, then I probably would have played it by now, but I haven't ever played this one.
Yeah, but I mean all the other games, like I mean I guess there are a few deck builders that do have solo variants, but yeah, I don't think this one's getting one. I'm just looking at the art on the cards now because I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah.
What the hell? It's something else. There's nothing else out there that's like this. So if you're wanting like if you like Epic Spell Wars and you're like, really, they're making it in deck builder, it's good. It's a really good deck builder. So, but it's only for people who like this game.
Oh yes.
That's my number 6. Long title here.
Yes. All right. My number 6 is our first crossover.
There it is. There we go. Geez. So I said there was going to be 7. So
You're going to be wrong.
I'm going to be wrong, but I mean, at least we know the other 5 are games I've already mentioned. So, let's see. I'm going to go with Lost Ruins.
Nope.
Oh, interesting. Wow.
Dark
That's way
Souls
up there.
our game. I love this game. This was like one of the first videos I watched of yours, like, and it was that whole drawn back. It was before you really got into your higher production.
Right.
You were doing a solo playthrough of this game. It was so hard to see, but it was so cool. Like that stuff. It was funny, but yeah, this one is just one, like I said earlier when you were talking about it. I never played the video game or anything, but just the way that the art is done on the cards, it's like a simplistic version. Like the cards are like all black except for just this little picture, and it's like and stuff, and then it's just the cool monsters you face and the cool weapons you can get and the strategies you have to do of knowing when you're gonna what card you're gonna play to be able to make your weapon better, but then that's also your health and when you're gonna do, and then the campfire, all that jazz. I mean, this is a very, well, you said this also, this is a very difficult game to fully complete, like to go through. But yeah, like I run it with 2 heroes generally with this one, just to kind of give that a little bit of safety
like
net.
divide and conquer the damage.
Yeah. So, but yeah, just this was just a good one. I have all of this stuff. The one complaint I have about this damn game is the storage is shit. It's those flat boxes and stuff. So I have like one of those card sorting boxes that I have them lined in. I cut like the top part of the box off and put it on top to make it like to store everything. But
think
like since
I
I've done,
think I have everything that I think it does technically fit in the box, but man, it's just bags upon bags.
yeah, when I
Uh,
sleeved all my cards too, so
oh well, then yeah, never mind.
yeah.
That it's not fitting if they're sleeved.
Black core cards, they chip a lot easily if you play
Hmm.
with them a lot. So that's why I just sleeve them just to kind of, you know. But no,
Yeah,
this is just a top notch one. I mean, there really isn't much more I can say about it. I mean,
true.
it's that you covered, but it's always going to be right up here towards the top just because it's an awesome solo game.
I agree. I agree. All right. Well, then on to my number 5, which surely will be on your list if it's not super high. It's kind of a combination again, kind of like what I did with Hero Realms and Star Realms, because they're the same game, just different factions. And I actually have played this recently at. No, sorry, I taught this game. For some reason, I've been teaching games this year. I don't know why, but instead of playing, but it was actually kind of nice. And I saw a 4-player game. I taught a 4-player game of this, which went surprisingly well, and you wouldn't think it would with this kind of game. But so my number 5 is Imperium Legends or Classics. I actually like Legends better just because I like the factions here better, but they're the same game. I own them both with a insert that combines everything together. This is such a fantastic game. You showed this one to me, and we
Yes.
played it at 2, which wasn't bad. Like I wouldn't say like kind of like one of the other ones where you said like Mage Knight or um like the Dark Souls where it's like, oh, this should, or Apex. It's where it's
Yeah.
like this is a solo only game. I think this game is way better solo, but if someone's like, oh, I love playing this game at 3, I'd be like, okay, it's just long. Like whenever you're playing multiplayer. Uh, but Imperium Legends is basically a civilization deck building game. You pick your faction and you pick your faction or your civilization, and their setup is going to be different on how like their actual unique ability is going to be. The history cards or the upgrade cards that they're getting that are thrown into their deck are going to be different. The way that they play is going to be different. And then you have your universal market of cards that you're just trying to put into your deck. And what's unique about this one is you're trying, for the most part, to get your civilization into its empire state as quickly as possible. And each time you have to reshuffle your deck, you add a card from I can't remember what it's like a face down deck. It's like a unique face down deck. And you just take one of those cards, and now it's unique thrown into your actual deck. And each time you do that, once that unique set aside deck runs out, you become an empire, which allows you to use different abilities and not use other abilities
Barbarian
because,
abilities go away.
yeah, barbarian abilities go away. Then you go into your empire, and there's a lot that this game has. Not only are you trying to figure out how your faction plays, but you're also trying to figure out how to combat what your other factions do. Like the Celts, for example, are huge into causing unrest, and they have lots of ways of just giving opponents unrest, which are not impossible to get rid of. It just takes one of your very limited actions to do, unless you have other ways to discard cards. Because one of your main actions could be if your whole hand is unrest, you just kind of pass, but you can dump all those away. Those are
Right.
negative points at the end. Some cards have unique end of game victory conditions to get victory points, but when you're playing this solo, which I think is why it's so hot, like so high up on this list, is you can pick any faction to play against, and it's just so simple on what they do. It's like you just roll a die and it's like, okay, well, this card flips because I mark it. This is showing a solo game. Like let's say it rolls a 3. It's like, okay, the third card's not going off, but then you flip over the next and it's like, okay, it's this card, and you look at a chart based off that faction you're playing against and see if it matches anything there, and that's what it tells you the solo variant does. So good. Uh, Somehow they were able to replicate how that faction feels in the solo variant. And I think so far the Legends factions play radically different, because the Classics has like Greek and Roman. Well, they're not too different from one another in real life, so they're gonna feel pretty similar. But when you add Legends, then they really start acting different. And then eventually Horizons will come out. I think that's now pushed back to it was 18 more?
I think it's adding 18 more civilizations, I believe.
I couldn't remember if it was 18 or 20.
Yeah, that's nuts.
That got pushed back to 2024.
Yeah.
It adds damn, I thought it said in the description 14.
14, okay. Couldn't remember.
Yep.
So you're gonna have to watch yourself, because I mean I'm gonna start thinking you're a Miko artist fanboy, you know, with Endless Winter in this game.
Well, I know, but here's the thing: is Imperium is great because it barely shows any people. And if there are people, they're wearing helmets.
Right.
So, yeah, I have realized that the Miko's art I enjoy for his scenic stuff. I think he does a really good job, but his people are monsters.
Yes.
So they're vomit-inducing. Yeah, so that would be 30 factions total, right? Because we have 16 right now, because there's 8 in this.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's rounding it up to a whole 30 with Horizons coming out. Yeah, this is great. So highly recommend this one. Even multiplayer, I think the 4-player game worked really well. I thought so. That's my number 5, Imperium.
All right, we might talk about this later. We'll see.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Okay, so my number 5 is a game that we have also played together a couple times. And you aren't as big of a fan of it as I am. And the reason it's kind of went up this list more, they came out with an expansion that lets you play all the content that's out solo, plus my wife actually. So I don't know why, but this does not seem like a theme that she would get into, but she actually enjoys playing it with me, so I can actually play it 1v1 and having a good time with it. And that is Undaunted. Any of the iterations, whether it's Normandy, Africa, the Reinforcements is the expansion that lets you play solo with everything.
Oh, I see. Okay, that's interesting that it didn't come with the solo. I thought it did. Fascinating.
Well, it's I think there was a solo variant in there, but like the Reinforcements actually like made it to where every bit of content is
okay
that way.
Yeah, I want to try this solo.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's kind of like, I feel like it wouldn't be as annoying doing every mission solo, because of the randomness would just be against me.
Right. Yeah, and I haven't played. I have the Battle for Britain, which brings in aircraft, and stuff. So I haven't played that one yet. They came out with Battle of Stalingrad, I think is what it's called.
I'm looking it up.
But that one is not that one is like it's almost like a dungeon crawl kind of weird game. And I didn't do it because it doesn't play solo at all. And it's like more convoluted. It's not, I don't even think it's really a deck builder version. I haven't looked into it a whole lot. But in this game, you're picking a scenario. There's a whole book of scenarios, and there's solo scenarios for when you do it and everything. And one of you is going to be the Germans, and one of you is going to be the Allies, and you're going to go in and you're going to battle. Now, where the deck building comes in is it's kind of unique, because you start with the scenario is going to tell you what your deck starts with, and then as you can see it down here, you lay all the rest of the copies that aren't in your starting deck that the scenario says you lay them out on the table, and there's a certain number of copies of them. And as you do a recruit action, I believe it's recruit or bolster. I can't remember what the keyword is, but anyway, it lets you take one of those and put them into your deck. You know, so you're like deck building, but you know what you're getting. It kind of goes in. what's cool though is then you also have you're moving you're tactically moving your characters around on the board to try to get objectives, whatever the objectives may be. And when you get hit and you die, or somebody dies out of your hand, like let's say it's a rifleman, let's say, or something, then you have to discard a rifleman. It starts, if you have one in your hand, you have to discard it out of the game. And if you don't have one in your hand, you can look in your discard pile. And then if there's not in the discard pile, you take it out of your deck. If you don't have anything, then your character on the board actually gets removed until you either buy more to go into your deck to put them out or whatever. And we played, one of the times we played, it was a weird scenario. I mean, that was kind of an odd one. That one where I was just hauling ass running away. I mean, that was, not all the scenarios are perfect, but when you play it solo, I still prefer it solo over the 1v1. Just because, like you said, I mean, you're making the decisions. The games go by quicker because you're just playing. Your turns go by really fast. You just play, you do your thing, and move on. And but yeah, they've really put a lot of cool stuff into this. The designing team of this is awesome. They've done a ton of stuff. And I tend to like.
I was actually just looking. I was just looking them up. David Thompson has done a War Chest. God, I'm like so bright on my this screen just blinds me. He did War Chest, which is a game.
Yeah, but he also did Sniper Elite. He was
did Sniper Elite, which he did Resist.
Yeah.
And he's doing Witchcraft, which is basically Resist, but in a witchy and theme.
He's been part of a lot of other stuff too. And then David Turksey is the solo guy. I mean, he makes the solo version of this and everything. And it's because I mean, this is just a good one. If you like war games, this is a non-complex war game. You have a little bit more control in this game than, let's say, like a Memoir 44. So I mean, there's still the randomness, but I think Memoir 44 has more randomness than this.
100%.
Right. So this one's more, you have a little bit of control on what you're putting in your deck. You have your own deck, so you're not sharing sharing your deck and stuff like that.
I'd much rather play this than Memoir 44.
So yeah, I mean, this one's just the top-notch one. The production's really good. Osprey Games has really been doing really well the last 2-3 years with their production and their games that they've been putting out. Because you just said Imperium is an Osprey game. This is Osprey.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
There's several that have come out over the last few years that have just been home runs for the company and stuff. So yeah, that's my number 5, Undaunted.
Nice. Yeah. Because I like, maybe it's just one of those things that it's like, I like the idea of a war themed game, like centered around actual battles. But maybe it's just kind of one of those that it always falls flat. I don't know. Kind of like Gladiator games. It's like, man, those should all be good. Like I want that theme to be, but I haven't found one that I like. This one just kind of felt like it had the tactile nature that I like, but it had the randomness about that I don't like. Where it's like, I'm gonna do all this, maneuvering and strategy using cards and getting in position and hope dice let that succeed or not.
Right.
And then a 1v1, it just feels worse, where it's like you just rolled well. Like that's all I feel like, because no matter what you do, it does come down to dice. And I feel like I want to try it solo because obviously it's still going to be centered around dice, but at least if it doesn't go well, then it's like, well, there's no opponent that beats me. So maybe you'll have to let me borrow it so I can try it solo. Anyway, my number 4 will not be on your list. I don't think anyway. That'd be very odd if it actually ended up being as high. This was one of the second deck builders that I played that actually got me in to start to like deck building. And I've played this game relatively recently, and it just reminded me of how solid it is. And it's in a theme that I am very involved in because of just the kind of games that I play. So that is Tyrants of the Underdark. And
I've not played this one yet.
Oh, okay. Well, it's really good. It is there was a game I played. Oh, it was Scarface. Scarface did kind of like an area control deck building combination. And whenever I was doing my review, I was like, man, it feels like that there's another game out there that does that. And then I remembered Tyrants of the Underdark, and I'm like, oh yeah, here's a perfect example of how you actually do deck building and how you actually do area control in a good way. And centered in, I mean, the Underdark's a badass place with Drow and kind of that whole storyline. But like I said, you are utilizing the cards in your entire deck to do special abilities that allow you to go control various locations for victory points. And you can use these cards for either like assassination or getting more purchasing power, maneuverability, sending, I think, because there's like, yeah, the board itself doesn't look all that great, but because they're just like these little shields that are just your color, but the actual marching to locations or just hopping in, doing an assassination to pop into a new location to try and just get the bonuses of that spot is really good. And it is your standard deck builder. Everyone starts with the same certain number of cards until you go out and start buying more, and you pick different types of factions that are going to be incorporated into the market. This game didn't get a whole lot of support. I think it had 2 expansions that just added new factions, which are good. Like, I think those kinds of expansions do really well for this kind of game. But this also includes kind of like your own factions or your own house inner circle, which basically means it's where you cull cards. So if you can cull cards and you could put them into your inner circle, they might be worth points. Like that house guard, for example, is like it's worth 1 point if it's in your hand or your deck, but it's worth 3 points if you actually cull it and put it into your inner circle. And there's a lot of, well, not a lot, there's some games that do that kind of, when do I want to get rid of it? Its ability is really good, but it's not worth any points while it's in my deck. Like, I guess I'll try and get rid of it because it's worth 10 points if it's in my inner circle, but man, its ability is solid. And also trying to find ways to actually get it out of your deck. I enjoy that. There's a few games that I know of that do that. Elysium is one that comes to mind, and there's a new game coming out called, oh crap, I'm very much gonna buy it because I think it's Evenfall or Evertree. I can't. I'm in the ballpark there. Evenfall. Yeah, Evenfall does that kind of that same system of when do you decide to get rid of cards to get their bet to just get the points for it. Yeah, this one's extremely solid. I've liked it since I first played it. I don't have like the second edition. I think I just have the regular first edition, but the second edition didn't really change anything that I know of. So yeah, that's my number 4, Tyrants of the Underdark.
All right, good deal. All right, well, my number 4 is another game that we've played that I showed you. And
Okay.
you weren't necessarily a huge fan of. This one I was really intrigued about because the original version of this game I played the absolute crap out of. Like, it was one of those original deck builders where you started with your same deals, you defeated or bought stuff. I played the app. I played thousands of games on the app, and then they're coming out with a Kickstarter that says, "Hey, we're going to merge that deck building game that you all love into a miniatures game, and everything." So then, I was like, "Hell yeah, you get to play some of those characters as miniatures as you go through." That's Ascension Tactics. This still has the Ascension deck building game that is really popular and has been around for quite a while. But it tosses you into a deal where when you get these certain heroes or stuff, you actually, when you play them, you'll have miniatures you can summon and put out on the board, and then you're doing tactical combat, whether it's trying to hold locations. You can fight the other creatures that are out there. But the difference with this game is, like in the regular deck building version, you had the purchase points and then you had the attack. Well, this one, you have command points is what that stuff is. So you use those command points to summon creatures or to move certain creatures or whatever. And the there is also a deck, and I can't remember what the hell they call the deck, but it's what the bad guys have. So like when you're playing a cooperative game, let's say cooperative or solo, there's a threat deck of some sort. I don't know. I don't think that's what it's called, but it's an event and it'll pop out. And the more cards that are out in that, there'll be like a little number at the bottom that an extra bad thing will happen if you have that many cards in the discard pile. So that stuff happens. And then there's also the bad guy will do a summoning thing where you flip a card over for bad guy and it'll say activate the moon and the trees. And there's this little, you'll always have these certain spawn locations that a monster will be attached to, and that'll mean they activate and do stuff. And I've played this. We played this 1v1. I've played it. I haven't ever played the team game.
No, we did it cooperative.
But okay, well, I did 1v1 with another guy. We did the cooperative. I played 1v1 with another guy. But solo is the best of all of them because they actually have a campaign, a solo campaign thrown in there that tells you what to start with, and then it kind of builds upon that and stuff. The miniatures are really cool in this game. There's a lot of miniatures. They're pretty solid. There's a new Kickstarter that we'll be delivering here in probably the next 6 months or so. That's just adding more. It's a standalone box, or it combines when it's a lot more evil guys and stuff. And I just like it because, when you play Ascension, the deck building game, it's just one of your basic deck builders. There's really not much theme to it. You're just going through this lets you play as those characters now, and you actually get to do stuff. And it's a neat thing. If it does that bad thing though that we've discussed on other games before, where they need to pick a lane. Like they try to throw so many different types of game into it. So like it's kind of misleading because when you buy this and you're like, oh, well, this is we can play co-op, with this game. There's like 10 scenarios in the scenario book, but only 2 of them are co-op.
Right.
And then like the other ones are all competitive. But unless you do that, and then you have the solo book, of course, that you can go through. So I was like, oh man, this would be cool to play co-op. Well, we played the one, and it was
the one scenario.
Right. So
okay.
Yeah. So, but the next one is the next Kickstarter actually focusing more on co-op than the competitive. So I don't know if they were just doing that to, appease the people or what, but yeah, I mean, this is just one of those games that it's just pretty solid. If you like Ascension, go for this one.
I think they did implement that kind of taking an already well-established game and then changing it into a miniatures game without making it feel gimmicky. I think it doesn't. Like I thought this game was all right. Like I didn't hate it. If someone would be like, "Hey, you want to play?" I'd be like, "Sure," but I'm not rushing out to play it.
Well, and if you don't get the Kickstarter version, if you get the Kickstarter version, it comes with the standees too. But this would be just as fine with the standees too. I mean, so like, don't go spend $250 to get all the stuff when you can just play it just as good with the standees. But
yep, I agree. All right. My number 3 is the newest game on my list, like basically like a month old at this point. I have played this multiplayer, I have played this solo, and it is my favorite out of the trilogy. And this version even more so than the other 2 deserve to be on this list because it focuses way more on the deck building, which I think is completely unique about it. And that is Great Western Trail, New Zealand.
Interesting.
So between Argentina and original Great Western Trail, I mean, they are different. They have differences, but they felt very similar. This one still, if you play Great Western Trail, then you're gonna jump into this and be like, okay, what's the new stuff? Because it still has that same Great Western Trail beat. But what makes New Zealand more fascinating is they have kind of a market. I mean, not a market of just shuffled decks you flip over 5, but you shuffle like 10 randomizer cards and you pick 4 of those. And so that's going to determine how many of the that's the 4 unique cards of that game, all on top of the standard cards, not counting the sheep. You have like, I think now 8 cards set off to the side that doing various actions will actually allow you to get these cards into your hand, whether they're bonus plays, letting you move, or letting you like have a unique sheep that no one else has. This one, because like I questioned whether Great Western Trail should be on here, because I'm like, is it really a deck builder? Like the original, it's Rondell. You do
Yeah.
hand manage, and then, but it's like, yeah, you do build a deck of unique cows in the original, because you want a hand of various of different types whenever you reach Kansas City. And here you want the exact same thing with your sheep, but the sheep also have a different value. They have their sell value, but they also have a wool value that you can go into a build of shearing your sheep to get more money, and also lets you go to various locations out on like the shipboard that kind of replaces the train station. But the reason why I justified this one being more than regular Great Western Trail is the fact that you have those set aside 8 cards. And the game wants you to cull through your deck a lot more by giving you free bonus plays, by actually determining what actions you want to take and what you want to spend. There's a new resource called gold, when you want to spend the gold on to get those unique cards. So your deck actually gets thicker, and it allows you to cull bad cards out a lot more. So you're wanting to actually cycle through like any other regular deck builder. On top of Great Western Trail being a fantastic game, now if you don't like original Great Western Trail, this isn't going to do it for you. So if you just don't like that system, you're not going to like any of the 3. But this setting set in New Zealand, yeah, sheep are still pretty much cows. They just have a different value, or a new value on them. The things that they did add to this, I think, just kind of elevate this. There's more going on, but that works in my favor a lot more. So it's my favorite of the 3, and the solo variant is just as good. In fact, the one I just played, I thought I tied. Like I thought I got like 120 points, and the AI got 120, and I was like, damn, did I really tie? That's fascinating. And then I forgot to add in some of my some of my victory points at the bottom of my board. And I'm like, well, never mind, I won, but oh well. It's great. I love this game, and I love the differences that New Zealand brought. So yeah, that's my justification of adding Great Western Trail to a deck building list.
Yeah. Yeah, I might have to try this one. I like Great Western Trail enough, but since this one focuses more on deck building a little bit, maybe that might be even
It
more
does.
my
Now,
speed.
it's not like a deck builder like Ascension
Oh yeah,
or
yeah.
anything like that, but the having the, because you can kind of see them over on the far right. You can see there's like the pink cards, and there's some cards over there next to that dude in the jeans' crotch. Those cards are always out, but the pink is a separate sheep. One of those is a raft that you can play for free, gives you a coin. Another one is a dog that lets you move. I think it lets you move. But those are always out. But then there's another set of 4 that are going to be random out of a set of 10. So you just shuffle those 10, and then those are going to be determined on like whenever, if you accumulate gold, you can spend the gold to take one of those cards, on top of doing your hand management of getting the variety of sheep. So it does add a lot more deck building. And the exchange tokens in the original that you can draw and discard?
Yeah.
They added something to those where if you have 2 of them, you can get rid of a level 1 sheep from your
Oh, okay.
deck. So that's the easier way of culling versus some other way. So yeah, it focuses a little bit more on the deck building for this one. So, and it's in New Zealand, so you can't really really hate it.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll have to give that a shot. Number 3 is a crossover.
This one will be Lost Ruins.
You are correct.
All right. You're like,
Yeah.
no.
So I really don't have much more to say on this one. I have not played the newest expansion. I don't own it yet because I didn't go to Gen Con and I wasn't cool. So, but
is it not released yet?
It is. I just haven't put
okay.
it together in order.
I'm like, wow.
But yeah, this one's just top notch. I mean, I have fun with it. My wife has fun with it. We, the first expansion was awesome, adding the player powers and the different research boards and stuff, and it was, it's just good stuff all around.
Yeah.
Like I've played Dune a few times, and I played this a lot more, and Dune just isn't, and it's not just a theme thing. It's a meaner game, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, in a way, it's just this one just seems to have a better flow and stuff, and plus, I mean, it's prettier, and it's just
we're shallow gamers. Like Dune is ugly, and I don't want to sleep with it. So Lost Ruins, I'd fuck. Like Lost Ruins gets down.
like a glory hole on the side of the box.
Seth, what the fuck is wrong with your cards? No. They're damp.
Why are my research boards stuck together?
Yeah, sorry. I saw it and I just had to. All right.
Anyway, yep, that's my number 3, Lost Ruins of Arnak.
Okay. Well, my number 2 is the granddaddy of deck building. You can just go to it. I don't have a segue into it. It's Dominion. Dominion 2nd edition specifically. I know there's a huge difference. I actually don't think there is one. I think art, and maybe some cards. But Dominion is a game that I got into very recently, and not because I had like an aversion to playing it. It was like, oh god, just Dominion, fuck that. Couple things. One, I actually think I like the art. Like I know everyone says it's ugly. It reminds me of just old Renaissance paintings that I think. I mean, yeah, there are some cards that I'm like, oh, that's a little odd, but I think it fits the theme. The second is it is your purest deck builder. It is easily my purest deck builder on this because that is all it is. But the first time I played this, because I didn't want to play it just because I had played other deck builders. All these other ones I have played before I played Dominion. So I was like, well, I don't feel like I need to go back and play it. It's like, yeah, I like deck building, but that's just all Dominion is. But a friend of my mom's actually brought it over one time, and I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll play it. And I was hooked. Like everything that I like about all these other deck builders I've mentioned, just Dominion gives me that feel. The cool, unique strategy you're going for, the fact that you can just take any type of card and just throw it out there and seeing, oh, out of these 10 cards, what am I going to focus on? What's the puzzle here for me to get really cool card combos? Even though it is your pure deck builder, your standard, same cards from everyone. You play everything that's in your hand if you can. If you can't, discard, draw up, and then every card you buy straight to your discard pile.
Right.
So it has that. But like I'm like on the hunt for like different expansions. That was one of my biggest purchases at Gen Con in 2023 was actually just Dominion expansions. Because like you mentioned with Thunderstone Quest, and the reason why I kept it for so long was I love plethora of cards. I love being able to just do a randomizer and be like, oh, here's the 10 I got. And Dominion has also something that I really enjoy where it's like, what kind of game do you want to play? Like I played the Hinterlands expansion, and you can go on the back of the rule book, and it's like Hinterlands only, and here are the cards you pick for your market, just so you can see what the expansion is kind of bringing. Brilliant. Whenever I did this for the channel, when I was doing a review, we played a game, I think it was called Top Decking. So a lot of the cards was about you just being able to constantly draw, having your opponents draw. So it just gives you various ways to play if you don't want to completely randomize it. I don't know what there is to say about Dominion that hasn't already been said. It came out, first edition came out.
It's wild. I played first edition. Like that was my first playing of this game.
2008?
Yeah, it's
2008.
old.
Yeah, second edition came out 8 years later, so 2016, which is still 7 years ago. It stands the test of time, honestly. Like, I mean, I played this about a month ago just to try out the Hinterlands expansion. I got the Plunder, Seaside, Intrigue, and also props to Rio Grande because at Gen Con I bought an expansion that I had because they have big boxes where you can get the base game and a bunch of, and maybe 1 or 2 expansions. I bought an expansion that was in that big box, so I emailed them and they got a hold of the vendor that was at Gen Con, and he emailed me. He's like, "Hey, yeah, man, like I don't have a whole lot of expansions left right now, but if you send it back, here's what I got." So I sent it back and he sent me Adventures. And I'm like, well, that's amazing. I didn't have to be like, "Oh, I'll try and sell it." Yeah, it's fantastic. I almost want to buy, they have a Rondell, or not a Rondell, a Lazy Susan you can buy.
Yep.
They had one on Etsy, and I was like, this is really good. And it was in Texas, but the freaking shipping was $100. I'm like, dude, if this was in Europe, I'd see that. Why are you shipping? Like, no. So I'll just live with putting it on the table. But yeah, Dominion is my number 2.
Yeah, it's a good one. All right. My number 2 is probably going to be your number 1. I'm just calling it because you haven't said it yet.
I'd imagine it might be.
And I really don't have much of a segue into it other than just saying Aeon's End. You and I have played a lot of this together. We ran through the legacies, a lot of the stuff. There's always stories.
You can skip to my number 1. This is very much my number 1.
Okay. So anyway, we've played so much of this together. It's and there's always stories to be told. The very first time we played this game, you taught it to me, and it came down to that last flip of whoever's turn it was, and that's what kind of hooked me to it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so much crap to it now, and it's great deck builder. And this one's one you can play it solo, right?
Yeah.
But I actually prefer this one at least 2.
At least 2, yeah.
Yeah, I'm me being a solo player. This is one of those weird ones that I actually would prefer to play with more people because of the way you can bounce off of each other and do different things.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a lot of those cards that you can kind of help other people out and kind of, and everything. And
yeah, the bosses are brutal.
Right.
I think out of all the ones we've played, I still haven't played the Past and Future expansion. I keep needing to set it up. That you said it earlier, Aeon's End is kind of a beast to set up.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of like, I just don't want to set it up right now. But out of all the nameless that we fought against, I think there's been like maybe on one hand we can count that kind of were either not that great or outright sucked. I can think of one that just outright sucked.
The spamming one, the bug spamming one was the one I didn't care for.
No, it was the one that made you swap decks.
Oh God. Yeah, I forgot about that one. Jesus Christ. Yes. No, I didn't like the spamming bug one too, because the Paris went all over the place. But yeah, that one that switched decks, yeah, fuck that. That was like I was salty after that, man. When that happened, I was pissed. The whole
yeah. Yeah. Can't say it's not unique, but it's that's very frustrating. But that's just goes to show how far this game has come, because the original didn't look great. It was like, man, this is like clip arty kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, and even to this day, because Kat's played this game, and every deck builder that we play, she's like, do we shuffle our deck? I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
No other game has you flip your deck.
Hmm.
Like this is the only one, and it's brilliant. Like short of having cards go straight to your hand, which I know I can only think of one. Shadowrun Crossfire. I think the cards you buy go straight to your hand.
Yeah.
Short of that, the meticulous actual seeding your deck or your discard pile, which becomes your deck because you just flip it. Oh, it's genius. It's so good. Yeah, this was my number one without a doubt. I was kind of surprised I had Dominion at number two,
Hmm.
but it just made sense. Like with everything about what Dominion does for a deck builder, this has that exact same badass combo deck building situation.
Yeah. Power
On top
turns.
of
You can just drop some bombs on the bad guys if you time it right.
yes, exactly. And just yeah, that full cooperative nature where it's like the way that the enemy cards come out, that it's like, oh, if spend 8 either or spend 8 currency to get rid of this, or one takes, Gravehold takes 40 damage. And it's like, all right, who's doing that?
Yeah.
It's like I have 8. It's like, okay, like but I was gonna do this and I was gonna do this, and it's like, all right, like just it has that real cooperative nature where everyone is participating. Whether if someone's doing all the damage to the boss, someone else is doing crowd control, someone else is supporting. You just have those roles that this game gives you.
Nope.
And they're still
Top
not
notch.
they're still not running out of ideas. I've seen
Nope.
some stuff from the past and future expansion, and I'm like, that's fucking wacky.
Yep. Yep.
Very curious what they're doing with the future, though. I don't know if they're officially done because Astronites is out.
I don't know if
And
it was as popular as what they were hoping. I think.
I don't think so. They did an expansion.
Yeah.
But they went on Kickstarter for an expansion. Astronites is this. So again, if you don't like fantasy and you want sci-fi, Astronites is this. I just found it to be still good. Like I couldn't really knock it, otherwise I'd be knocking Aeon's End. I just didn't keep it because I'm like,
Yeah.
Aeon's End is just a little bit better for me. And yeah, we're talking about that wire of the bosses. It's like that's on basic.
Yeah.
I have yet to face an enemy with its actual increased difficulty.
I know. Yeah. It'd be stupid.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
Good
then you're
choices.
number 2.
Good choices. Yeah.
Yep. You're number 2, my number 1. I actually sold all. They have an app now to do a randomizer.
That's cool.
So I'm like, yay! Makes it way easier than trying to decide what gems, relics, and spells you want.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you said the choices. There's a lot.
You know what my number one is?
God, is it a crossover?
It is.
Imperium.
You are correct.
Okay.
I put both of them though.
Yeah, you did. I figured I was like, I do that enough.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, this one for everything you said, and we talked about it with your other one. This one is, I like to play solo stuff, and this one is the preeminent solo deck building game for me. Like it's so much replayability. I mean, you have all the factions, and you can choose any faction to play against any faction, and it plays awesome, and everything. It's just, I just don't know, man. It's just such a good system.
And those factions are deep too.
Yeah, they are.
Because I was thinking, I'm like, well, you don't really have variety in terms of what your factions are doing, but you do because you're not going to be able to get every single card from your Empire deck. You know, once that fate, your picture is even better than mine. I see how it is. I see your daughter has a favorite, and it's not me. That face down sideways deck is the one I was talking. I'm pointing like they can fucking see me.
This one?
Yes, that one.
Yep.
That's the one I was talking about. Every time you reshuffle, you take the top one of that. But the deck next to that, it's your development deck. That's it.
Yes.
So once you're an Empire, every time you reshuffle, you pick one of those, and you're not getting all of them.
No, not at all. But no, this one's just super. Can't wait for Horizons to come out to see what kind of new craziness they do. But Love the art, love the setup. Chiefs lost. And
Did they really?
yeah, they lost by 1.
Oh,
so
that's even sweeter. Oh my god.
so so anyway,
Oh, yep. I'm not hearing any fireworks. Oh no.
there's gonna be a flood of tears, I'm sure. But
You just hear
anyway,
gunshots. It's like, I gotta go.
as we're alienating all of your Kansas City listeners here, your subscriber
Hey,
list is start falling.
pick better teams.
So anyway, but yeah, this one was my number one. I mean, like when we set this list, I knew this was going to be my number one from the get go. And I just love everything about it. I'm a history guy, so this even fits right in there too. So yep,
yeah,
that's my
even
number one.
Out of the 16 factions, some of them do feel similar. Like for the most part, they do play different, and you can see that playing solo.
Right. Yep.
If you play this game solo, which is very streamless, so I keep combining the shit. Seamless. Right. You can see kind of how they play.
Yep.
There's a lot of depth to these factions, more than you would notice on first sight.
Yep. I would agree.
So yeah, we only had 3 crossover. I'm actually amazed.
Yep. We're about out of time.
Yep, we are. But that's it, everyone. That was our top 10 deck building games. Let us know what your favorite deck building games are in the comments below, and what you thought of our games as well. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you. Hey everyone, thank you for watching, and I really hope that you enjoyed the video. If you would like to see more of my content, go ahead and click that subscribe button and the bell to be notified whenever I upload any new content. If you feel like supporting the channel, you can go ahead and click that Patreon link to be taken to my Patreon, and any help is truly appreciated. Other than that, stick around for any other run-throughs or reviews or cool top 10s or whatever I feel like putting on. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.